Progressions, observations, and the end of the QB battle. Cody and I kick off this week's slate of episodes for the Locked On Texans podcast by reviewing Saturday's practice as Houston now prepares for their first preseason game.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a white tech hat with any order. You won't want to wait to take advantage of this offer. We promise you. So make sure that you go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code LockedOnNFL when placing your order. Shout out to all of our returning family members checking us out each and every day like you guys do. But if you are new to the Locked On Texans podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the YouTube page, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I am your Texan football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman. And of course, I'm joined by none other than Sports Illustrated's own and Texans credentialed media member, Cody Davis. Over the weekend, we had a blast. It was a beautiful day. The sun was out. I won the championship ring. You had to know I was going to bring that up. You had to know I was going to bring it up. Shout out to the Red Squad, as you guys can see.
Which, by the way, and listeners, viewers, you let us know if you agree with me. Since I was the one to extend the flag football invitation, I feel like I should at least get the ring, correct? Even though you won, you wouldn't even been there if it wasn't for me. It's like general manager player type thing. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I extended the flag football invitation to you, and
answer
you
this
won.
question for me.
So you got the dub, you in all the pictures, but I think I should get the ring.
Not only did I get the dub, I also did what?
You got the ring.
And I scored the touchdown.
You scored two, right? Or was it just one?
Just one. I had two catches for
that's cool, but
yards in the TD.
In the words of Chris Paul, this is the only ring that matters.
Losers. Now let's talk about the Houston Texans. Over the weekend, we had an opportunity to look at and view and have our observations of Saturday's practice. A very good practice for C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, Dameon Pierce, who had a beautiful catch. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at Kenyan Green's and my observations from the things that I'm seeing that he can work on in order to improve, or the reason why he's been held back from reaching his full potential. But Cody, I think no better way to start this podcast than opening up with C.J. Stroud, closing in, and I would go as far as to say kind of making the QB battle now not relevant. Over the weekend, C.J. Stroud, during the 7-on-7 drills, 2 touchdowns, could have had a possible 3 if Shaq Griffin didn't push out Dalton Schultz in the back of the end zone. This was when the offense was positioned at the 10-yard line. Cody, I know you're going to mention it, but you see CJ getting the ball out quickly compared to last week. One of the concerns at that time was him holding on to the ball. And you had an opportunity to see CJ really utilize not only his receivers, but his running backs, his tight ends. Two of the TDs came from tight end. One came from a tight end catch. One came from Dameon Pierce, who had a beautiful catch in the back of the end zone, lopped it up for him. And we talk about Dameon Pierce improving as a pass catcher. He had an opportunity to showcase that on Saturday. You guys, I'm sure you've seen it all over social media. If not, go check out the Texans Twitter page. Last season, guys, Houston ranked 28th in the red zone when we look at the touchdowns, TDs only. This is one of the few areas I'm expecting Houston to be better at this year compared to seasons prior because of the arrival of C.J. Stroud and Dalton Schultz. I also want to make sure that I emphasize you can clearly see this offense will put a point of emphasis on utilizing their running backs and tight ends. That's not a surprise into the passing game on this offense. But C.J. Stroud looked good throughout the entire day. From what I was able to see in my opportunities to be out on the field, this was probably his best day. Cody, please, by all means, take it over. He had a beautiful pass towards the sideline. I think that was Eric Tomlinson he hit on a boot. And he's just – on Saturday, he was clicking. He was getting the ball out fast, and you see him day in and day out just kind of commanding more and more of this offense.
You say this was his best practice, but John, listeners and viewers, this is something that we have been saying over the last 3 training camp practices, and that showcases C.J. Strouds' growth in his development, in his progression ever since the start of training camp. And look, this so-called quarterback battle, quarterback competition between him and Davis Mills Saturday night, which marked day 9 of training camp. I believe it was John McClain asked Coach DeMeco Ryans about whether or not is it time to name C.J. Stroud the starting quarterback. And of course, he gave the runaround, gave the political answer. But John, listeners and viewers, over the last 3 days, C.J. Stroud has taken all of the first team reps. And that is very important because going all the way back to OTAs in May, him and Davis Mills, they split first team reps ever since May. However, over the last 3 days, especially more so now that we see the Houston Texans ramp up their practices with their first preseason game next Thursday against the New England Patriots, you are truly starting to see what rotations they would like to use, who they're going to experience a little bit more in this first preseason game. And John, it's more so the improvements that we have been seeing over the last 3 days, because as you mentioned, he is getting the ball out a lot quicker, which means we are seeing him starts to go through his read a lot more faster, a lot more fluent, which means that the offense over the last 3 days has looked a lot more efficient. Plus, my favorite part of watching this development in C.J. Stroud has been his ability to take care of the football. I think over the last 3 days, he has only accounted for 1 interception, which is a good thing because the first couple of days of training camp practices, it seemed like C.J. Stroud was about to be a turnover-prone quarterback. However, you can see his confidence and everything in that you want to see in your rookie quarterback is getting there. And look, C.J. Stroud has had a phenomenal 3 days, and the same thing can be said for Davis Mills.
Yeah, maybe, I was going to say.
Maybe not on the level as C.J. Stroud.
Was Davis Mills, guys, and some of y'all not going to want to hear it. Some of y'all really want to hear it.
But it's the truth, though.
But it's the truth. Davis Mills, the Jared Wayne, he had a good connection with Jared Wayne on Saturday. He hit Tank Dell. The pass was behind him, and I can't wait to talk about Tank Dell.
That was for 19 yards, too.
It was for 19 yards, but it was really only to where Dell or nobody else was going to be able to catch the ball. He hit Dell again, and that was a huge play. The play down a sideline to Jesse Matthews, and Jesse Matthews had the toe drag swag on that one. That was a beautiful play. Then he hit him again on the very next play. I can't lie, guys. Davis Mills is a guy that a couple of things, and I'll give it back to you, Cody. Excuse me for cutting you off. But when C.J. Stroud was drafted and everybody was screaming, "Get Davis Mills off my team, get him away," there was no real reason to move on from Davis Mills. He is on a rookie contract, and unless a team comes knocking and they got a nice package, then you really want to make sure that you keep Davis Mills, and this is one of the reasons why. Like if C.J. Stroud, knocks on wood, goes down, or if he's having one of those rough patches during the game, Davis Mills, from what we've been able to see, and more so you, Cody, but my couple of times with Davis Mills, I've seen some bad, but I've also seen some good moments from Davis Mills. And I think what I like the most of what I've seen from Davis Mills, at least going back to Saturday, and correct me if I'm wrong, his delivery with his passes. And he still has some high balls. Like one of those passes to Tank Dell was beautiful, but then the other one was like too high for him. Again, Tank Dell is a playmaker. But his decision-making has gotten better. And he's putting some passes on the money. To go back to C.J. Stroud, guys, before I pass back over to Cody, what I like probably most about it We know about his accuracy. That's there. But it's his decision making. There wasn't a pass to Dameon Pierce that he hit down the sideline, and then Eric Tomlinson, who I think is really kind of separating himself from the rest of the tight ends on this team, where he just took what the defense gave him. And both of those passes ended up being big gains for the offense. And so we look at C.J. Stroud in the past. We may have said to Davis Mills, Davis, take what's there. Davis, do this. Davis, Kyle Allen, do this. From what I'm seeing from C.J. Stroud is, as of right now, Houston doesn't have a lot of big play opportunities when the ball is traveling in the air. But C.J. Stroud is giving his guys opportunity in space, which is a lot of what this offense is predicated around, to be able to make a move and get upfield. The pass to Dameon Pierce along the sideline when they was in the 11-on-11 drills was a beautiful decision, along with the Eric Thompson on the boot on a play-action rollout when he just hit him in stride. So I like that about C.J. Stroud. I wanted to make sure I tell you guys that.
You look at the fast progression and development of C.J. Stroud. We have been watching, studying Davis Mills over the last 3 years. And I go back to the first couple of days of training camp. C.J. Stroud holding on to the ball a little bit longer. Davis Mills having the same issue that we saw the first 2 seasons, him having choppy feet while he go through his reads. I'm starting to wonder about the time that both of those quarterbacks have put in with Bobby Slowick, because it's not ironic that Davis Mills, he's on his 3rd offensive coordinator, and this is the first time where we finally see Davis Mills go through his reads with confidence, with quickness, and with efficiency. Before moving on, I do want you guys to listen to what Coach D'Amico Ryans had to say about the development of CJ.
With Stroud, what I've seen is improvement, as I talk about each day. That's what we ask for out of all our players, is seeking improvement. And that's what you've seen from him, and he continues to improve, and it's good to see. We'll see when games come. I think that's where you really, can judge on where a guy is based on game situations. Practice is one thing, but guys have to get out and get the real competition in the game.
Bird dogs make you look good. Pretty simple. With Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts, they are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit better than a regular pair of shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. With Bird Dogs, they fixed this issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khakis, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Also, Bird Dog uses anti-stick sweat wicking fabric. It doesn't stink. It stay cool all day, dry all day, and it does not stink. Listen, you can go to birddogs.com right now and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL, or use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a free white hat right now. You won't want to take your bird dogs off at all. We promise you.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. That's once again, that should be my ring, but you let me know. Let the listeners and viewers find out. Let them decide who should get the ring.
If you haven't seen a video of me scoring the touchdown, make sure you go to my Twitter page at John_Hickman12. Go through the media. You'll see me representing for the Locked On Texans podcast and the Locked On Network, by the way.
You'll see me too. You'll see me too, being DJ Bieniemy's hype man.
Hell of a catch by DJ, by the way.
Oh my God, that might have been the play of the day, man. But as we continue here with this Monday installment of Locked On Texans, this offensive line had promised to be top 10 at the start of training camp. However, over the last couple of days, some injuries have really gotten away. Everybody know about Scott Quisenberry. As a matter of fact, myself, John, and Big Sarge, we had an opportunity just to catch up really quick with Scott Saturday. He was at practice, of course, on crutches. The right leg, I believe it was, where he tore his ACL and his MCL, was heavily wrapped up. And, we just basically really quick asked him how he's doing. He said he's doing fine. And, of course, we wished him a speedy recovery.
It was a good spirit.
Was definitely in good spirits. And he wasn't there for the entire practice Saturday night, but it was just good seeing Scott Quisenberry, and for us to have that moment with him, just let him know that we thinking about him and stuff. It was a really good moment just to catch up with Scott. But Scott wasn't the only injury that has taken place over the last couple of days. DJ Scaife, the offensive lineman, was actually carted off the field with a leg injury Saturday night. And then a couple plays later, Titus Howard left practice with an apparent hand injury. At the time of this recording, we have not heard anything about an update on Titus Howard. However, we saw the trainers looking at his hand, and like I mentioned, it was an early exit. So with all that being said, 3 injuries for this offensive line, especially 2, is more concerning than DJ. No disrespect to him, but speedy recovery to him as well. John, Saturday, you was out there alongside with me. You had an opportunity to get a true sense, a true evaluation of Kenyan Green. What were your thoughts?
First, I do want to show this for you guys, because this is my absolute truest form of evaluation for Green right now. Here are my thoughts about Kenyan Green. Give him some time, since time has been taken from him. If he engages first as a blocker, he'll have a good rep. His footwork on recovering might be his biggest issue right now, in my opinion. And I ended this tweet off by saying, give him time, because he is definitely the starting left guard. So shout out to Big Sarge, Brian Bearfield of Big Sarge Media and TexansWire.USA.com. He allowed me to use his binoculars. Now, what I do want to kind of paint a picture for people. When the fans are in the stands, it is a whole lot hell of an easier time for them to see things, because they have a fuller view of the field compared to the media. And so once the team gets on the far side of the field, it's very difficult for us to see it. So what Big Sarge was able to do, shout out to him, man, he allowed me to use his binoculars, something that I hadn't used in, I don't know when was the last time I used binoculars. But what I'm able to see from Kenyan Green is, guys, he is a run blocker in every sense of the word. If it's a ISO play, if it's a lead, if it's a maybe like a 27 when he blocks down, whatever play where he engages on that defender and he's able to put his hands on that defender first, right off the rip of the snap of the ball, a lot of times those are Green's better reps. 8 times out of 10, he's going to have a good rep, right? Not necessarily a perfect rep, not necessarily a rep that isn't coachable, but compared to the other reps I'm about to get into, it's a good rep. What I'm seeing is, if that defender, 3 tech, 2-eye tech, whatever, if that defender, if Green doesn't get his hands and engages first immediately, which a lot of times we look at his difficulties in pass blocking, with those pass blocking reps, whenever he has to kick step back and allow that defender to come to him or wait on the defender, what's happening is the defender can hit an inside-outside move. I want to say it was Derek Rivers who hit him with a move where he faked in and bounced out. Well, on that play, if they were noticing that, it would have been a flag holding the Kenyan Green, because he turned him around, because it was difficult for him to get his feet back, ready and recover and shift to where he was going to in the next spot. That has been, I think, going back to A&M, and we look at last year and at times throughout training camp, not OTAs, not anything in the offseason, but training camp, that's been an issue for Kenyan Green. And I think when I started that tweet off, and I thought, give him time, because time has been taken away from him. Yes, time has been taken away from him due to the injuries. Yes, time has been taken away from him due to the surgery. But the fact of the matter is, time, nonetheless, has been taken away from that young man in his development. So you'll see him have reps where there could be he may not engage first, but may have a better rep compared to when he isn't still not engaging first and the defender just kind of whoops his ass a little bit. The thing about Green is reps, repetitions, that has been lost for him because of his timeout. And I think when we judge him and observe him, what we need to be fair about is can we criticize his injury history and him not being on the field? I think absolutely yes. It isn't his fault, of course, but we've criticized John Grenard. We've criticized Nico Collins. We've criticized other players and their progression or lack thereof due to them being out. So we're going to be fair and do the same thing for Kenyan Green. But at the same time, when I'm looking at him, what I'm saying is, for one, overall, understand he is your starting left guard unless something changes. And with the injury to Scott Quisenberry, and that the team right now really want that cohesiveness across that offensive line, I don't see him losing out on that starting job. So he will be there. But he has to work on better hips as an offensive lineman, being able to, when that defender change trajectories, change with them. Better, I would say, hand usage when you're not able to absolutely engage first, and his recovery with his footwork. And I didn't get an opportunity as much as I wanted to really observe the combination between he and Juice Scruggs, because I really kind of got locked in on looking at what Green is doing and what he can improve on. But I think right now, guys, overall, and you guys may kill me for saying this, he does deserve the time simply because there's not a better option right now. And of the time that's been taken away from him. And I also believe everybody should get 3 years in the NFL before we determine whether or not they should be a bust or moved on from. So the young man has some work to do. His biggest issue right now overall is inconsistencies with doing the small things right. Mechanically and his technique, those are some of the things he needs to improve on.
John, before moving on, I do want to ask you this question. Heading into the 2023 campaign, and it's kind of ironic that you had an opportunity to get a true sense, a true evaluation of Kenyan Green a couple of days after we had like this debate on whether or not his skill set is still on the rookie level, whatever the case might be. But what is your confidence level in Kenyan Green as of right now? Because if we are being 100 about this is the first time that Kenyan Green has gotten consistent reps like this in training camp since he began his career. Because remember, last year, I believe it was like the first week he had that concussion, and then he was out all the way up until I think opening day.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think I'm sorry to cut you off. By the way, for everybody that's out there and you have some concerns about Kenyan Green, I truly believe that preseason is going to be very important for him when you look at everybody on this roster. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm sitting in a 5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 is right there at the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, guys, is because simply I don't see the good reps as consistently as I want to or as the team would like to. And again, he does have those good reps. There was one play where he was, I forgot who was it Hassan Ridgeway? He was able to completely move Ridgeway out the way and get to the next level, got a hat on Denzel Perriman, I believe. So to see him move a body that's as big as him and get to the second level, that's a good rep. That's a damn good rep. And it wasn't like he was pushed around. He actually was able to move some bodies. So that was on Saturday. You count that as a good rep. You also had an opportunity to see Kenyan Green go out there, and he had a very good combo opportunity, I think, on maybe Lopez. And again, from where I was standing, it was hard to see who the defender was. But he and Juice Scruggs, they combo blocked very well together on one of those plays. And you see Green turning the defender into the center. That's a good rep. But then you also have reps where he's getting his hips turned too much, and that's a holding if they would have called it. You also see reps where, a double move is completely taking him off his head office where he don't know where he's at that moment. And the guy's able to maybe get into the backfield and make a play. You have reps where it's just kind of like you just need to be quicker. So I'm at a 5 right now. 3 preseason games later, ask me that question, and then we'll be able to evaluate, I think, Green's performance at that point. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win a regular season game. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use those bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sports book. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Welcome back in, Locked On Texan listeners and viewers. Over the weekend, again, we had a blast. Hannah McNair, Cal McNair. You talk about the activity and the involvement. You talk about them kind of just being around a team. The activity between the McNairs right now, specifically Hannah, is amazing to see. We know about the tight end issues for this team, so I do want to give you guys just small clips of what this young man out of Sterling High School could possibly mean to this. If you guys could just check this out. Look at that.
It's sideways. They can't see.
Look at that. Let's that touchdown. That's what we do here on the Locked On Texas podcast. But Cody, more takeaways and observations from day 9.
Well, the best part about day 9 of training camp was the fact that it was a day for the rookies in general. We started off this show talking about the development, the growth, the progression of CJ Stroud. However, he wasn't the only rookie going out there and making plays. One of my biggest takeaways on Saturday was the growth and development of Tank Dell. John, listeners and viewers, a couple of days ago, you and I talked about what Tank Dell could possibly mean for this offense. And we talked about how, look, when the defensive back can get their hands on him, he's really obsolete in the passing game. However, anytime he has an opportunity to go out there and create separation, anytime he has an opportunity to be worked into the offense where he's sitting in the zone, that young man is going to be a daily weapon in the passing game. John, you already talked about it. He had an opportunity to connect with Davis Mill for a 19-yard catch. I believe that was on a dig route. I forgot who he burned, but that was the perfect example of showcasing what Tank Dell can do when he has an opportunity to be a playmaker.
That was an acrobatic catch, too, by the way. It was kind of behind him.
Well, what I said, I believe it was in mandatory minicamp when I came on here and talked about how the way he was able to contort his body in order to make a reception. He's always doing that. But just take a listen to what Coach D'Amico Ryans had to say about Tank Dell being a playmaker.
Just finished talking about how you want to see players continue to get better. What have you seen from Tank Dell? It seemed like today he's really out there in practice.
Yeah, what I've seen from Tank is I've seen some exciting playmaking ability. Right? You've seen him make some tough catches, seen him just being open a lot. And that's what I continue to see from Tank. There's his ability to run routes, to be precise in his depth and be precise in where he needs to get to and find a way to get open. It's been fun to watch.
Tank Dell wasn't the only rookie going out there and making plays. Saturday, we had an opportunity to see Will Anderson Jr. record another sack on CJ Stroud. That was really good. John, you saw it for yourself, man. The way that young man is truly getting the idea, getting his development, his progression down on the defensive side of the ball. In my opinion, I get it. 9 days into training camp, we haven't seen him play a game. However, to me, it seems like he is quickly establishing himself as one of the most consistent, reliable, best defensive linemen for the Houston Texans, and I'm not the only one who think that as well.
With Will, that's what you saw in college. He's not a flash player. He's a consistent player. He's consistently in the backfield, consistently making plays, and that's what you've seen out here at practice. He's been the same guy, just disruptive in the backfield, causing havoc, and that's what we want him to do.
Overall, it was just a good day for the class of 2023. I can't wait to see what these guys look like on Thursday, the first preseason game against the New England Patriots. I understand we're not going to get a true sense because I know a lot of these guys are not going to get a lot of reps in preseason. However, like Coach D'Amico Ryan said, it's about that time in training camp where you want to practice and go up against other guys who don't share the same locker room, who don't wear the same colors as you.
I you know what you saying, and I gotta tell y'all, man. Will Anderson at times, so I know everybody's seen that Michael Parsons clip where he hits Dak. There's been a couple of times where Will Anderson gets by his man and he pulls up at the very last second. I'm kind of like,
I teased him about that after practice too. I went up to Will. I said, Will, I know without a shadow of a doubt you wish that was a real game where you could get that hit, huh? And he just started laughing. He was like, man.
Cody mentioned how good of a day it was for the class of 2023. I also want to look at the extension of the class of 2023 for the Houston Texans and look at the undrafted rookie free agents that signed to this franchise. Jesse Matthews and a player that we had here on the Locked On Texans podcast, Jared Wayne, those guys are making some plays for Houston. Mentioned the sideline catch from from Jesse Matthews. He had a couple of catches on Saturday for some good gains. Jared Wayne is a guy that he is faster than what I thought he was. And he just has good hands. So whenever they give him an opportunity to get on the field and give him some targets, he's making some of those catches. And I think those would be, if they don't make the 53-man roster spot, those would be some very great practice squad candidates for this team. And also, Cody, you mentioned Tank Dell. I've just been thoroughly impressed by this young man. Very concerned about his size, very concerned about his height, very concerned about how he's going to stand up to the NFL level. And I get his training camp, and I get that, you know, guys are not necessarily gunning for you like they will in a regular season game or a preseason game for that matter. But he has been making plays, sideline catches, plays across the middle. For a guy his size, you're kind of like, oh. So he's making those plays, and he's doing it fearlessly and consistently. Excuse me, guys. So I've been very impressed by Tank Dell.
Really quick before we close, I do want to give a special shout out to Roy Lopez. You're talking about a guy who has looked really good and consistent throughout the entire training camp. And on Saturday,
by the way, with you saying that, excuse me, so a guy that I really wanted to see get an opportunity, Christian Kirksey, he was out, Brevin Jordan was out, but Thomas Booker has been missing a lot of time. And we talk about guys that's on the bubble, off the bubble, who's going to make what. Hassan Ridgeway has been playing. Kurt Hennis, when he's been in practice for Houston, he's been playing. Roy Lopez, as you mentioned, has been playing some good ball. So I'm looking at Brian Colbert, by the way. I'm looking at Thomas Booker with the amount of time he's missing. I'm kind of like, oh, man, I don't know if he's going to make this team.
I think Thomas Booker might be safe because he's still young. The one I'm more concerned about when you look at guys that's still on the sideline is Christian Kirksey. The first 2-3 days of training camp, he was out there running with the first team, and it seemed like he was doing really well. I believe he's ended up dealing with a leg injury at this very moment, and the fact that he hasn't been out there, the fact that you're starting to see Henry T play with the first team, take that Mike position, and that linebacker position, man, is one of the deepest that they have, man. And then how much they can save if they end up cutting
6'5",
it's like 5'5", 6'5", somewhere along those lines. So you also got to consider, John, like you've been talking about when we did our linebacking preview, is the amount of money that they can save. So, you know, hopefully, you know, speedy recovery with Christian Kirksey. He can get back out there on the field. But Roy Lopez, man, he has been looking really good. And it don't matter who is lining up on that defensive front. He has also been taking a lot more reps with that first team as well. Yeah,
which I've been shocked to see, but he's been playing. And mainly Sheldon Rankins hasn't been, you know, in and out of practice and things of that nature. But Roy Lopez, he's been playing some good football for the Houston Texans. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, make sure you do so at John_Hickman12. But make sure you follow the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Give me a shout out, man. If you want to know how it feels to be a winner, if you want to wake up and piss excellence, you come holler at me.
What?
Me.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody COTYDAVIS_24. If you need somebody that can actually help you celebrate, if you need somebody to be your hype man, like I was for DJ Bieniemy of ESPN, holla at me because I think I'm really good with that. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.